Hi, folks. I'm not supposed to be sat here today. I'm supposed to be on my travels. Not abroad, but like inside the country. So I got up this morning at 4 a.m. and I cycled my bike to the station to find that I'd made it on time. I got my tickets, everything was going all right, and then the train said it was going to be a minute late. Then it was going to be 2 minutes late. Then it was going to be 3 minutes late. Eventually, the train turned up. And then, as if that wasn't enough, being already about 10 minutes late, they had to reboot the train in the station. They had to literally Control Alt Delete it and and restart the train, which took another 5 minutes, as you can imagine. And then a cheerful guy came on the PA and apologised for the delay and said that we would be on our way. And that was about that. So I was trying to get to Stowmarket so I could get north to North of England. I failed because my next connection was 10 minutes after I was supposed to arrive. And instead of arriving on time, we arrived 16 minutes late. So the train had already left 6 minutes ago. So I aborted that and cycled back home. So I have been up since 4. I have also cycled about 50 miles today, which wasn't really the plan. But now I'm back home. So I figured that I would use this experience to talk about the Stakeholder Express and managing expectations across teams. Because when I was on the train, literally no one knew what was going on. We didn't realize the train was being restarted. We knew it was a bit late. And so, like, as a passenger, my expectation is that I'm going to get to the station, literally one station up, on time. That didn't happen. No one knew why until eventually the cheerful guy came on and told us we were late. So, the Stakeholder Express. Managing stakeholders in a business, in an organization, it's quite often like running a railway. There is an analogy here. So, like, you've got different stakeholders all wanting different stuff, potentially also wanting to get to different destinations. Some people want different types of products. Some people want to not do anything at all, and so from a destination perspective, from a speed perspective, because everyone wants to get there fast and trains don't really do that. Along with reliability, which is something that I would have appreciated today, considering I was trying to get 10 minutes down the line. And no one wants unexpected delays. So we're going to have a quick look at how to align teams, expectations, and hopefully prevent scope creep without derailing a project. But I apologize for all the train analogies. Yeah, this is just what happens when you get up at 4 and it's now 10 a.m. So, who have we got in terms of stakeholders? Engineers, developers, architects, the ops teams. And what do they want? The engineer stakeholders in a project, what do they want? They want to have clear technical requirements. That'd be nice. Minimal distractions and time to focus. I am a big believer in working from home because it gives the engineers the ability to focus. I don't think that's great for product design and collaboration, but I do think from a sort of like getting stuff done perspective, time to focus is important. What frustrations do engineers have? Changing priorities, tell me about it. Last minute feature requests, yes. And unclear requirements, that might be on me. But I can fully believe that is the sort of crux of stakeholder, engineer stakeholder, frustration. And so, what strategy do you have for engineers? And we try our best as product managers and owners and people that are trying to build these things. In providing detailed specifications up front, and ensuring realistic deadlines. That'd be nice. I can't always pretend that realistic deadlines are a thing when you've got superiors pushing down on you and spacecraft ready to take off, but that aside, realistic deadlines and specifications. We've also got product managers. What do product managers want? They would like to have features delivered on time. They would like to have a competitive product, I guess. It makes it easier to sell. And probably a balance between speed and quality. Don't go too slow, but build something that doesn't suck, please. What frustration do product managers have? Product managers, sorry. Many frustrations. Scope changes, technical delays, lack of visibility, sort of being top of the list of things I could come up with. I'm sure there's many more. And so also from a product manager perspective, you're looking two ways. You're talking to engineers who are building the thing. You're also talking to like potential end users, customers, and other stakeholders in the business as well, which like adds to that sort of frustration loop. And so what strategy do we use as product managers? Agile roadmap, Kanban boards, Jira, tickets, all that type of stuff. And attempting to maintain a transparent trade-off discussion with everybody involved. Like, what are the pros and cons of building something? How much longer is it going to take? If we don't build something, how much quicker will we get to market? What, impact does what impact does not building something have on the product? That type of thing. Then, of course, you've got the executives inside of your organization, the big railway bosses. What do they want? They want to make sure that the product you're building has business impact. And so in doing that, they want to make sure that whatever they're investing in is good value for money. It's going to like really impact the business in a positive way. Probably want to see revenue growth, assuming you're trying to sell it. They would like to see innovation because that helps drive your business to the forefront of, whatever sector it exists in. They'd also like to see a return on investment, I suspect. That return on investment is often sales, but it's not always. It might just be users. It sort of depends on how your market works. Frustrations for executives, slow releases, check. Lack of tangible progress, also check. Unexpected risks, yes. They aren't too keen on that type of stuff. And so like, how can you provide types of insight for executives? Dashboards, outputs from, Jira, metrics, that type of stuff. They're then tied to actual tangible outcomes. So like software releases, features coming online, that type of stuff. And the other people as well who are stakeholders are, of course, your end users. And they may be customers, they may be internal users, they may be external stakeholders. And they would like, I would imagine, reliable performance, intuitive user experience, as they are the people using your software, and sort of bug-free experiences by and large. And where do their frustrations lie? Poor communication. They don't know what's going on. They don't see inside the business. They don't understand what's going on. Unexpected downtime. It happens to all of us, but sometimes it could be communicated better. And missing features. Is it worth their while using your piece of software? And if it does everything but one thing really well, is that missing thing super important? Because if it is, even if they do the rest of it really well, they may not use your software. So what can you do before you sort of leave the station, for want of another train analogy. So, before you start a project, map out stakeholder expectations. Like, get it in a table, get it in a Miro board thing, whatever piece of software you want to use, or just like literally a whiteboard or a massive piece of paper and just start sketching out stakeholder expectations to identify conflicts, early on in the project. Engineers, like we said at the start, engineers need time for quality. Executives would like to see that software shipped yesterday. That type of thing. So, I apologize once again for the train analogy. How do we manage scope creep without derailing a project? How many more train puns can I get in today? Adding scope expansion is like adding like new stations to your train journey. It slows everything down, and you run the risk of missing getting to your destination on time. Doesn't happen, thankfully, but it does sort of happen in product management. Common causes of scope creep: vague requirements. Who here has heard someone turn around and say, can we just add this quick change? A lot of times. And having people understand what that actually means. Executive overreach. The CEO pushes down from above and wants something added, like as soon as possible. And so everyone drops everything to go and add it. And so like, what impact does that have, and how annoying is that scope creep? Because it's probably pretty annoying. Customer-driven changes. The feedback is that users are demanding X, so let's try and squeeze it into the the current sprint. Seen that before. Feature envy. Guilty of this one. Our competitors have this, so why don't we? Or just generally poor backlog management. And you keep just chucking more and more stuff into your sprint as you get further down the line. And so like scope creep is easy. Like you may initially not even realize you're doing it, but it's very easy to come up against. So like, what are the strategies to prevent scope creep? Actually, just rolling back. Yeah. So like strategies to prevent scope creep. This is something that we actually are attempting to implement better in the day job at the moment, which is define a no surprises scope agreement. Establish a clear definition of done before development begins. Like new feature comes down. What does done look like? Before we even talk about the implementation details, what does the done state look like? And then when it comes to a release, like agree on feature freeze points where no additional changes can be introduced. You end up with a release branch, if that's the type of thing you're doing. The release branch has no new features going into it, but does have bug fixes, hot fixes, that type of stuff going in. That way, you can ensure that everyone's in alignment as to what's going into a specific release. You can also use change request process. So any new feature or change request must be formally proposed with like business justification. And you can track this in Jira. You don't have to like do anything too crazy or, whatever issue tracker you want. And then expect people to have like a pushback. It's not necessarily a negative thing, but it's like, why are we doing this? What are the trade-offs for adding this? And, how does it really benefit what we're trying to do? And if you can like explain a bunch of that type of stuff in the ticket, it allows you to track this stuff as you go through the project. Other thing as well is separating must have from nice to have. And so you can do something like an impact versus effort matrix, and you score features by business impact versus complexity to make the trade-offs visible. this involves clearly like having a bunch of developers and product managers and other stakeholders collaborating, which may not be the most obvious thing, but like, if you can get people sat together discussing the trade-offs and then you can actually stick that thing in a matrix, it helps persist that so that when people forget things like a month down the line, you can go and look back at it and say, that's where we made that decision. So, that sort of gives you the ability to separate, what's important in a product. And then also leveraging agile flexibility without too much chaos. So fixed sprint lengths, with like backlog adjustments for future sprints. Try and stop people adding stuff to sprints. It's not always possible, but like, just as you're building out a product, try and keep the sprints defined. And also implement potentially implement something like a fast track lane, where like the business can name one thing in a sprint where you've got a bit of extra bandwidth, and if it's really important, something in that 2-week block can get punted to the top to allow for it to get built, but you're only allowed to like pick one thing as a business. And so that can be quite useful in terms of like making them really think, because the answer to the rest of the stuff is no. So going back to like not knowing why my train was late this morning, and clearly Greater Anglia could have done better. Like, there could have been platform announcements. There could have been something on the train, And so like regular check-ins versus over communication and finding that balance. I often tell people that I would rather have people over communicate and have like stakeholders or other people in the group tell people to shut up, rather than not communicate enough and then have people go and have to find out what's going on. So like, what can you do for balanced communication over the course of a project? Daily stand-ups. Engineers and product managers, stand-up should not be a long meeting. I mean, sometimes ours get derailed, I won't lie, but like, they should be 15 minutes, quick check for blockers, what's going on, get off the call. We should also have weekly syncs, which goes from product managers up to executive level, which focuses more on the business side of stuff as opposed to like what's going on at engineering level. Sprint demos, which is something that we're getting to grips with as well, which is cool, where you can have stakeholders and users on a call and show feedback and show progress and gather feedback on what you're building to make sure that it is like useful and makes sense to them. And then monthly reviews across the team, get everyone involved, discuss risks, roadmap changes, all that type of stuff. Depending on who your audience is, means that those meetings need to be different. Don't try and have like a serious all hands about the product with everybody involved when you're trying to talk technical stuff, non-technical stuff, all that type of stuff. Make sure that the updates that you're dealing with inside of that meeting make sense for the stakeholders that you're dealing with at that time. Product managers will do a good job of straddling both business requirements and engineering technical stuff, but don't expect engineers to be particularly adept at talking to customers, and don't expect customers to be particularly adept at talking to engineers. There are, of course, nuances there. That's not the same for everyone, but like, asynchronous communication. Not everything has to be in real time. Like, just allow people to update Jira, update GitHub tickets, issues, that type of stuff. Make sure that gets done, and then allow people to look at the tickets rather than like, let's jump on a call, because let's jump on a call derails someone else's time. And it's not just the time in the meeting. There's all those stats about like, the extra time around the outside that like it takes for you to switch context from like your engineering work to the call back to your engineering work is not the 15 minutes or the 10 minutes that the call lasts or whatever. So also, we've touched upon using dashboards to show analytics. It's a good way of getting feedback for people. Show dashboards, not just for outward facing stuff, but internally as well, like, sprint progress, bug fix velocity, code merge frequency versus deployment success, which is something we've been discussing again internally. Because that can help figure out when the software is good for release, and just generally allows engineers to feel like they're making progress when some stuff may be under the hood and hard to, like, it feels like you're in a rut, but you're actually making decent progress. For executives and business teams, stuff like uptime and reliability metrics, ROI on technical initiatives, feature adoption rate, and so these metrics can be both internal metrics looking out, and then also like, end users and how they're interacting with stuff coming back in, because it gives them a good idea as to how the product is functioning, both from a stability perspective, but also an end user perspective, and helps them drive, future roadmaps. And so like there's some cool tools for that, like Grafana we've just set up because it's good for infrastructure health and tracking. Jira for, I've mentioned that a few times for error issue tracking. We also use Sentry. Sentry is cool to understand if your product is functioning if your product is functioning properly from a customer perspective. Obviously, internal dashboards may be something different. If you've got a data warehousing tool, we use a lot of Databricks, so we can do dashboards in Databricks, but we might also use something else that sits over the top. You might use Power BI, Tableau, whatever. There's plenty of stuff. The other thing as well that's important is make sure you have tooling that's there for the end users so that they don't feel like they're like, on an island, and they can get in contact with you. And so if that's using intercom, status page, that type of stuff, make sure there's feedback buttons, make sure they have ways of being able to send feedback to you, because it's important to allow them to feel like they can communicate with you so that, you can obviously integrate their feedback into your roadmap. So that sort of gets us to the end. There's definitely also an aspect of like proactive versus reactive reporting. You can be proactive in your reporting and say like, we're on track to deliver feature X by February the 10th. Here's our current progress. Reactive reporting is like the deployment failed and we're investigating. And so like, bear that in mind when you're talking about reporting and how to deal with it. You can, no, I won't go to train dashboards, but like, you can do that type of stuff. So final thoughts, stakeholder management as a railway control room, and apologize, I wrote this earlier. I need to go to sleep. The railway control room, generally the cloud product team these days, passengers and the stakeholders in the business, engineers, PMs, executives, end users, train routes are the product roadmap. Like, which way is this product going to go? And of course, it can go in multiple directions. It doesn't have to be a single route. It's harder to manage, but it's definitely doable. And so you've got features, releases, and iterations in the work that you're doing there. And then more importantly to everything that we currently do is the signaling systems that you use internally to flag both internally to stakeholders internally, but also externally as well to end users. And when I was stood on the platform this morning wondering where my train was, I could have done with a better signaling system. Yes, I knew it was late. I didn't know how late it was going to be. It kept on shifting. When we were on board, I could have known that they were going to reboot the train. I wouldn't have got down the track and then had to come back. And so like, what can we do as product owners, as engineers to improve those signaling systems so that prior to the problem occurring, even if that problem is still going to occur, people understand why, what the fix is, what the ETA is, so that people can make better judgments and decisions before it's too late. So the key to smooth operations: clear planning, proactive communication, and transparent progress tracking. There you go. I hope this has been entertaining. I figured I would turn the annoyance of not being sat on a train into something a little bit more real life and day job related. So yes, first live stream of the week. I apologize for the sort of weird train related nonsense, but it has been quite fun. I hope you find some of this useful. If you do find some of this useful, let me know in the comments. If you have any other questions, ideas, opinions, things that I've missed, all that type of stuff, add that. Happy to dig into this more or do stuff a little differently. In the meantime, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'm going to go and do some real work. Yeah, let me know. Let me know what you think.